My next guest says feeding the world sustainably is crucial. She believes the focus of African governments is to create an enabling environment for the post-crisis food production and is going to be essential. Alzbeta Klein is the CEO and Director General of the International Fertilizer Association.
This engagement is about feeding Africa sustainably. This is about what needs to happen on the continent so that we can increase food production, so that we can nourish the continent, so that the continent can thrive, and everything that needs to happen to build the infrastructure, to build the financial system, to build the business environment, to create the enabling environment to make it all happen.
All right, but I'd like you to also comment on this approach so far, that getting this coordinated continental approach from African governments to come together with a communique that they're going to suggest a few recommendations on how food systems in Africa are going to thrive going forward, definitely after the impact of a major event like the COVID-19 pandemic.
This is a topic of the day, and at the International Fertilizer Association, we are looking at how we can feed the world sustainably. And if you look, Kenneth, at the impact of COVID-19, the current pandemic, what we have seen is that food industry has been remarkably resilient to change, has been remarkably resilient in the light of the pandemic. And the industry has built supply chains that feed the world sustainably. But we are also seeing that there are a number of pockets in the world where we still have hunger, we still have major malnutrition. And I personally believe that Africa as a continent, and especially sub-Saharan Africa, can increase its food production, can increase production of nutrition for its population. And we need to do it well. We need to do it sustainably. So the focus of African governments to create an enabling environment for the post-crisis food production is going to be essential. And Kenneth, we are seeing it with some of our members who are actively engaged with farmers on a continent, whether it comes to OCP from Morocco, Yara from Norway, ETG from East Africa. All those companies are working today with farmers, bringing knowledge, bringing inputs, bringing technologies to bring the food on the table.
Right, yes, interesting, because we're seeing these technologies being developed elsewhere. We're seeing this technology. But what about homegrown solutions, and especially even getting the farmers, the local farmers, to adopt some of this innovation that is coming to drive the output growth?
What is actually really interesting is that we've got a number of IFA ambassadors, International Fertilizer Association ambassadors in Africa, and we had a dialogue with them recently. And the key points that they were bringing in were the following. First of all, how do we create the infrastructure so that inputs and everything that farmers need get to them on time for the planting season? So the infrastructure. The second one was financing platforms, financing infrastructure. How do we help farmers access digital payments? How do we help farmers access everything that's available elsewhere in the world in financial platforms? And last but not least, how do we bring knowledge to the farmers? And what is really encouraging to see is that we have innovation in the industry, and innovation is going very, very fast. And that innovation starts with companies helping farmers analyze the soil, analyze what is needed, then bring in necessary inputs, necessary seeds, then provide financing solutions through microfinance or other financial platforms, then provide knowledge about the market, and then provide access to the market so the farmers can sell it. So that whole chain of how agri works on a continent is being refurbished as we speak. There are a number of companies that are doing farmers apps, farmers outreach applications that help farmers not only create on the continent, but also monetize what they create and improve their well-being in the process.
All right, so you play in a very interesting area, which is the fertilizers, a very key input for Africa. But I'd like you to speak to the fertilizer industry in Africa and how you see that evolving over time.
Fertilizer industry in Africa is growing, and it's growing rapidly, but what is growing even more rapidly are the needs in Africa. So Africa uses by far the least inputs to produce food. And we in International Fertilizer Association believe that sound plant nutrition is going to help food production on the continent. At this point, sub-Saharan Africa accounts for about 14% of the world population, but applies less than 4% of mineral fertilizers to grow its food. So there is an opportunity to do it better. There is an opportunity to do it sustainably. And if you look at the supply, there are a number of suppliers on a continent. There are quite a number of producers on the continent, and we have seen that there is actually growth in local production of fertilizers, but there is also opportunities to open up to global trade of fertilizers, which benefited so many other regions in the world. Because at the end of the day, it's about a farmer. It's about a farmer who needs access to the latest technology, who needs access to the quality inputs so that she can produce for themselves, for the region, but also for the global markets.
All right, talking about doing better, there's a key word that has run through most of your responses today, which has been building back sustainably. But I'd also like to add the word efficient to that and look at how we can drive efficiency as well, to reduce post-harvest losses and to make sure that we don't have losses in between the value chain.
This is a critical issue, especially as we are leading towards the UN Food System Summit. Food waste is a very important topic, and the estimates tell us that we are losing somewhere around a third of the food that is being produced. How do we tackle that? On the continent, in Africa, it is critical that we continue to develop good infrastructure. Good infrastructure allows us to not lose that third of food that is being produced between the farm gate and the time when it gets to the consumer. That is a critical piece that could be tackled through sustainable infrastructure. We also need to make sure that we have investments in cold storage and cold chains, because those are going to be very, very important, and not only for the food supply, but as we are seeing today, for the vaccine supply and many other parts of the infrastructure that needs to happen. So sort of broader, ports and roads, broader infrastructure, but also cold storage infrastructure is going to be critical to eliminating or at least diminishing food waste.
All right, but we're also seeing climate change and extreme weather events put pressure on the ecosystems in food production in Africa. How else can we do better, smarter agriculture?
Africa is a victim of climate change, and we are seeing it day in, day out. We are seeing it through droughts in West Africa. We are seeing it through soil depletion in other parts of Africa. So Africa definitely is a victim of climate change, and it is something that we need to think through and tackle, obviously, through global public good, right? So we're all working on COP26, and our industry is going to be an active participant in a discussion about how to get to net zero globally. But we also need to find solutions, and solutions are going to happen through innovation. We do not have time to wait. We have to innovate our way of the problem that we have today with climate change. Couple of areas where we are working very actively and that are also important for the continent. First of all, it's the industrial decarbonization. Anytime we are producing nitrogen and other parts of the value chain in the fertilizer industry, we need to think about how to do it more efficiently with less energy and just more efficiently. But then innovation also comes in a form of what kind of fertilizers we are using and how do we increase nutrient use efficiency? How do we use fertilizers more effectively so that they go where they need to go and not where they shouldn't go? So that sustainability and that innovation, specialty fertilizers, et cetera, needs to happen, and it needs to happen fast. So it goes back to my comment, Kenneth, earlier, which is the farmers need to have access to the latest technology, irrespective of where they sit, whether they are in Africa, whether they are in Latin America, whether they're in Asia. We need to make sure that they have access to what is available, the best global knowledge in the world, and then use it for the benefit of themselves, for their livelihoods, and for the global markets that they can supply.